personalized service, and a streamlined process.
Florida Credit Union, connecting your money to your life.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
All right, 7 minutes after 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in this Wednesday morning. Robin, in my kitchen cabinet, I have a bottle. And on that bottle, it's some kind of a vitamin tablet. I can't remember what brand I bought. And it says for men. It's the formula for men, Robin. I always like to remember that I have it there so that when I'm speaking to a doctor, I can impress him with my understanding of my purchase. That I got these vitamins. There's a guy blowing. There's a leaf blower guy right outside our window.
Yeah, he's standing at attention right
Holy
now.
mackerel. You can move. It's very close.
Yep.
He can't hear us at all.
No, not at all. He's got his headphones on, and he's okay. Now he's moving because.
All right, I'm sorry. So let me get back where I said. So I have this bottle of vitamins, and I want my doctor to know that I got this bottle of vitamins. But I want this next doctor we speak to, who's on the phone, Dr. Shawn Talbott. I want him to know that bottle's been in there about 8 years.
Yeah.
and it's not because I had the same wisdom that Dr. Talbott is going to share with us, or the knowledge, maybe that's a better word. Holy mackerel, that guy is loud out there.
Yeah, he's
but
doing a
it's
good
because
job,
I
though.
just, you know what? I get busy. It's, yeah, I'll eat a sandwich instead of a vitamin. It's just I've never
Right.
been one for the whole pill thing. I guess I bought it one day thinking maybe I should start doing this.
Yeah.
I'm 60. I'm going to be 60 anyway, and
You're still living.
I'm still there. So,
You're still here.
but I think I bought these when I was 52. So. So it's probably not inaccurate. And I guess my thinking was, hey, I'm over 50. Maybe I should start taking vitamins. I was never good at this. And now Dr. Talbott is going to tell me, well, good thing, I think that's the whole idea here. Dr. Shawn M. Talbott on the phone, one of America's leading lifestyle experts. He's a nutritional biochemist, an exercise physiologist. He's been on Dr. Oz. He's part of Michelle Obama's Let's Move campaign.
Yeah.
And he's got a best-selling book. His book is called Deadly Antioxidants: Why Your Daily Vitamins May Be Causing Cancer and Shortening Your Life, and How Your Body's Own Antioxidants Can Save You.
Okay.
And I
like
must
this.
say that it's hard to say those words knowing that you and I have participated in helping people promote their vitamin products.
Yeah.
Because they've come on the show. We don't know any better, right?
No.
It's not that we don't like to be. Hey, our audience won't be there if they think we're lying to them.
Exactly.
But if it has been a lie, it's not our fault because we've been believing the same things.
Yeah.
Dr. Talbott, long, awkward introduction, especially because of the leaf blower guy. Good morning, doctor.
But he doesn't get that on
Good
Dr.
morning,
Oz.
Larry. Good morning, Robin.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on there.
Yeah, no leaf blower outside of Dr. Oz's studio. Yeah. Well, so how did I do? I mean, I really do have a bottle of vitamins in my closet, and I probably haven't touched it in 8 years. So they're there.
Yeah, well, it's probably a good idea. It's probably a good idea that it has stayed in there, because what we're learning now is that taking too many antioxidants is really where the problem lies. It's not so much that antioxidants on their own are bad. We certainly know that if you have too few of them, that can be bad for you. But now we're learning that if you have too many of them, that can be equally bad for you. And so the idea is to get people back to this balance point and say, deadly antioxidants, stop over supplementing. Let's get you back to balance.
Okay, and if I just ate the way God intended me to eat, and I think it's supposed to be like a rabbit or something. I'm not really sure. But if I was the perfect specimen, whatever, would I need anything else? Would I be fine?
For most people, if we could eat the way that we're supposed to, if we could do what I tell people to do, is eat a rainbow every day. Every day you're eating a red vegetable, you're eating a purple fruit, you're eating red, orange, yellow, blue, indigo, violet. If you eat that every single day, you're good. Unless you're really exposed to stressors in the environment, unless you're outside in the sun a lot, unless you're in a polluted air environment, But if you can do that, you're in pretty good shape. The problem is we can't do that. It's expensive, it's inconvenient, it doesn't taste good for a lot of people. There's all kinds of reasons that people might need a little help on the antioxidant side. But, we need to draw that line and say don't over-supplement because we know of the problems.
Now, isn't white the mixture of all the colors? Couldn't I just eat potatoes?
Yeah. He likes Roy G. Biv.
That doesn't count.
That doesn't count. Okay. I was just trying to remember my art class there.
When people are told they have to have their body filled with antioxidants, how do they know which ones are the good ones and which ones are the bad ones?
Yeah, and that's really where the trick of this comes in, because it's very, very difficult to tell. One of the problems with antioxidant nutrition is that we can't always feel it. We do research studies all the time. We're presenting a new set of research next month at the Experimental Biology Conference in San Diego to show that if you supplement appropriately, we can reduce your oxidative damage in your body. We can protect your cells by a factor of 30 or 40%. It's actually amazing, amazing data. The problem is we can measure that in the laboratory, but those subjects don't necessarily feel that. You can't wake up in the morning and say, ooh, my antioxidants feel really good today. The accumulation of oxidative damage might take a year or 5 years or 10 years to show itself, and then you have an achy knee, or you have some memory impairment, or you're fatigued, or your skin is wrinkling. Those are all examples of accumulated oxidative stress, but it doesn't show up the next day. It's really something that happens over time.
Oh, really? Now, in my notes to prepare for this interview, there's something mentioned of NRF2. What the heck is that? And do I read it to you that way? Do I read those letters individually?
Yeah, NRF2, or shorthand, most of us will say NRF2.
NRF2.
This is a pathway inside of all of our cells that turns on the body's own antioxidants. So NRF2 is kind of like a thermostat inside of our cells. If we're exposed to sunlight, if we breathe air pollution, if we have any source of free radicals that will damage our cells, as soon as NRF2 senses that, it tells the cell to make more of our own internal protective enzymes. And that's a great approach. And what we're studying now is how can we activate that NRF2? Because we know it's very effective. We know that if NRF2 turns on, we prevent DNA damage. We know that we really have an anti-aging benefit if we're turning on NRF2. So that's a focus of most of my research these days. How can we turn that on effectively? How can we protect the cells in the most effective way?
So do we turn it on by what we eat or by what we don't eat?
Well, we turn it on by what we eat. We can also turn it on by exercise. We can turn it on by reducing stress levels. A lot of these things that we know are good for us, the reason it's good is because it's working through this NRF2 pathway. So, eating those blueberries turns on NRF2. Sprinkling turmeric, a spice, on your food turns on NRF2. Those are all things that, our mom told us to eat a particular way. The traditional Chinese medicine people ate this way 5,000 years ago, and now we're using scientific techniques to find out, all right, this is how it's working. And we know that, the title of the book is Deadly Antioxidants. We know that taking those high-dose synthetic isolated vitamins, vitamin E and vitamin C and et cetera, that is interfering with this NRF2 pathway.
Oh, really? Now, and is this common knowledge? Is it old knowledge, or is this something new?
It's pretty new. We've only known about NRF2 for maybe 20, 25 years. But in that time, in those 2 decades, there have been thousands of studies done. It's really, NRF2 is now a really hot area in pharmaceutical research. Every pharmaceutical company is looking for a NRF2 activator, because if you can do that, you could have an Alzheimer's drug, you could have an MS drug, you could have a heart disease drug. Any disease of aging could be prevented with a NRF2 activating drug. So I look at that and I say, hey, this is great science. How can I do it naturally with diet and exercise and stress management and those sorts of approaches?
Now, if I take my car to a mechanic and he decides that I need to add an additive to my oil or something like that, I'm going to use that to comparing it to the human body. There's a specific thing that is being recommended by a professional who knows that engine. So is it possible, I'm trying to be devil's advocate a little bit here, could a doctor literally look at each of us individually and say, okay, Larry, I'm going to do your study right here. Okay, here's the results of the study. You know what you need? You need 4 milligrams of vitamin E every Wednesday. Could that actually happen in the future? Could that actually happen?
Someday, yes. Someday I think that's exactly what will happen, is that we'll be able to measure the exact type of oxidative stress and find out what tissue it is that's becoming most damage in you. So, in me, it might be my back. In Robin, it might be her brain. In you, it might be your heart. So someday we'll be to that point where we can say, this is how much oxidative damage you have, and this is where it is, and therefore this is the supplement that you need to take, or this is the diet you need to eat. Unfortunately, we're not there yet. So the best we can do is, the way we do it in our studies is we'll recruit a group of people who have, moderate level of oxidative stress. They tend to be a little bit overweight, which increases your stress. They tend to have not a good fruit and vegetable intake, which increases your oxidative stress. They tend to eat a lot of processed foods, increases your oxidative stress. And then we'll apply these different techniques to them. We'll give them turmeric and see what happens. We'll give them a blend of green tea and milk thistle and see what happens. This study we're presenting next month, we gave them a supplement called Protandem, and we showed a 30% reduction in their oxidative stress. So, those are the things that we can do, and over the course of doing more and more studies, we're going to hone in on what is the optimal approach for different situations.
So in the beginning, and I was trying to be a little silly anyway, but I made sure to point out that the vitamins I have say men's vitamins. So was that an attempt by somebody somewhere to say, there's a different formula for women than men, but what you're saying is there's a different formula for me than you, than Robin, than everybody.
Right, exactly, and that's one of the things that for me as a scientist that makes it so exciting to study, is that we can have different manifestations, I guess, of oxidative damage in all of our different bodies. But what makes it exciting is that we can literally customize these regimens to people and say, this is going to be your regimen to help you feel better. This is going to be your regimen to help you focus better. This is going to be the one for athletes. This is going to be the one for we can dial it down as specifically as possible so that nobody has the same exact regimen. None of us have the same genetic profile. What this NRF2 pathway does is actually, I mentioned before, it turns on these antioxidant enzymes, but it really activates different sets of genes. You're turning on different protective genes in different people, and that's where medicine and science is going these days.
How do you know that it's working in the people when they follow this procedure and then they have all of these good antioxidants built up in their system?
Yeah, in the research studies that we do, we'll take blood samples and saliva samples and urine samples, and we can measure different parameters. So we can measure something called T-bars, which is an overall measurement of oxidative damage in the body. And when I say 30% reduction, that T-bars is going down. So that tells me that somewhere in the body there's a reduction in oxidative damage, and that's a good thing. The cells are protected. They're not as damaged as they would have been in a placebo situation. But right now, that's still kind of a broad brush. I still don't know, is that damage, like I said before, is it in the heart? Is it in the brain? Is it in the colon? Is it in someplace else in the body? That's where further research needs to go, so we can measure different parameters in these research studies and present those data, and then hopefully people will say, well, I want to protect my body overall. That's about as good as we can get right now, but eventually we'll get to that idea of being able to customize each and every regimen.
Are we intuitive enough? Maybe that's the wrong word, but are we able to diagnose our own selves just by how we feel? Like let's say you eat a candy, like every right now the thing you're hearing like every other day, chocolate is good for you. Okay, so let's say I buy into that, I eat a chocolate bar, and I just don't feel good. I mean, that's my way of feeding back to myself, saying, you know what, it might be good for everybody, but not for me.
Right, and people need to listen to their bodies. I mentioned before, one of the problems with antioxidant research is that you can't always feel it. So in our research studies, if we have a group of subjects over 30 days or 60 days that we're supplementing, we can measure those things in their blood and their urine and their saliva and their tissue samples, and we can show them, look, you're having a 30% benefit here, but they might not feel any different. It might take them 6 months. It might take them a year before they feel better energy or better mental focus. But if you look at, our lab has been pretty effective in showing biochemistry, our level of oxidative stress, for example, drives our psychology. So the reason we feel a particular way, energetic or depressed or any of that kind of stuff, is because of something going on biochemically. So we can make those correlations, but people really need to be in tune with what's going on in their body to see, is my pain going down? Am I more flexible? Am I more energetic? All those sorts of things. Those will come, but they may come later for some people and earlier for other people.
Are babies born with all the antioxidants their body needs, or is that manufactured as they grow?
No, that's a great question. If we look at a baby versus an 80-year-old, or even a 20-year-old versus an 80-year-old, the younger you are, the less oxidative damage you have. And so a lot of scientists view oxidative damage really as an indicator of overall aging. So we could look at somebody and we could say, an 80-year-old is going to have more because there's this accumulation of this oxidative damage over time as we age. We have shown in previous studies that you can, if you supplement appropriately, and in this particular study we used a supplement called Protandem, you can take an 80-year-old level of oxidative stress and bring it back to the level of a 20-year-old. So a legitimate sort of fountain of youth kind of an effect. And I mean, that's great. If you have less damage in your cells, those cells are going to work better. They're going to communicate better. You're going to function better. You basically get a metabolic tune-up at the cellular level just because of the ability to reduce that oxidative stress load.
Oh wow! But that takes time. So in order to look 10 years younger, you're going to have to be doing this for 10 years.
Yeah, and that's what people need to understand, is that if they want to feel good 10 years from now, you can't wait 10 years and then start doing something when the problems come. You need to start doing something now to stave off those problems that are going to come. I mean, it's inevitable. People like to think, oh, it's not going to happen to me, until it happens to you, and then you say, uh-oh, I should have been doing something way back there.
Oh, wow. Dr. Shawn M. Talbott is our guest. His book is called Deadly Antioxidants: Why Your Daily Vitamins May Be Causing Cancer and Shortening Your Life, and How Your Body's Own Antioxidants Can Save You. I want to slip in a question. This came up in another interview, that the pH level in our bodies is partly responsible, or maybe wholly responsible, for cancer. The premise was that the higher the alkaline, the less likely you'll have cancer.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Right. So my thoughts on that, as a nutritional biochemist, I always like to try to trace the biochemistry as far back as possible to see the actual root cause. So looking at pH is actually, you can step one step back from a pH measurement. One of the things that's valuable about a pH measurement for people is that they can pee on a strip and they can see, am I acidic, am I alkaline? If you go back one step biochemically, what's driving that pH, what's driving you to become more acidic, is oxidative stress. And so, my solution by looking at the biochemistry would say, all right, forget about pH. That's just a symptom of what the real problem is. The real problem is this oxidative damage. So let's go solve that. And if we solve that piece of it, the pH will correct itself because it's downstream from that earlier biochemistry. So, pH is a good thing if you want to track it, but what you're really trying to track is the oxidative stress. And so that's really what we want to focus people on.
Oh, interesting. And is there a way for your doctor to measure that? And I'm still confused about that part.
Yeah, you can. So in our studies, we'll take a blood sample and send it off to the laboratory. We do our own measurements in our own lab, but you can measure oxidative stress in a simple urine sample, in a simple saliva sample, in a simple blood sample. So your doctor has access to those sorts of things. And what I'd recommend is not so much just one measurement, am I good or am I bad, but get a measurement, then apply some sort of a regimen. The regimen could be more physical activity. It could be eating some of these spice supplements that we've been studying. It could be eating that rainbow diet, and then a month later, 2 months later, 3 months later, see how you're doing. Your oxidative load, your oxidative stress level should be lower. And if it is, keep doing that, and then keep doing that into the future because you'll reap the health benefits of that.
So the person has to really take this quote-unquote war on themselves because they can't be healthy if they don't do something about it to become healthy.
That's right. And almost everything that we study in our laboratory, whether we're looking at people feeling better, energy levels and mental function and happiness, basically, whether we look at how people look, we do a lot of cosmetics kinds of studies, wrinkles and fine lines and skin tone and things like that. And we look at a lot of elite level athletes and their performance and their recovery and are they overtrained and all that kind of stuff. All of it comes back to this basis in oxidative stress. If you don't have that piece fixed and balanced, you're going to be on shaky foundation with everything else you try to do. Even weight loss regimens. When we have people losing weight in our weight loss trials, we manage their oxidative stress at the same time, and they get much better results.
Again, the book is called Deadly Antioxidants. So is the book layperson friendly? Will I understand it?
It is, and that's exactly who I've written it for. I've written it for somebody who's a health-conscious consumer who wants to understand what should I do to improve my health? What should I do to prevent these diseases in the future? And what should I not do? What things should I avoid? So avoid those high-dose, isolated vitamin supplements, and instead come back to the middle. What a lot of us refer to as the Goldilocks scenario. Not too few, not too many. We want it to be just right. And the book really explains to you how to get to that just right balance point.
And I know you've got other interviews to do, so let me make sure that the listeners get the information they need so they can get the book. We'll start with the website. Do you have a website?
I do, and it's just the name of the book, deadlyantioxidants.com, and all the information is right there about the science, about the book, about what to do, about what to avoid.
And is that all we need to do if we're going to a bookstore to ask for the book, and can we get it on Amazon that way as well?
Yep, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, really any bookstore will be able to order it for you or have it in stock, Deadly Antioxidants.
All right, good stuff. Interesting stuff, too. And just for the listeners, I mean, one day you might hear us talking to a vitamin guy, and he's pitching vitamins, and Robin and I we have to listen because we don't know. We are students just as everybody else is, but we'll never tell you we know if we don't know. And there's very few times we know anything. So. Doctor, thank you so much for being on the air with us. Again, the book is Deadly Antioxidants, and call us if you need that repeated for any reason. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. Have a nice day.
You too. We'll take a little break. Be right back.
Today in Florida Ag News on the Southeast AgNet, Florida's 2014 legislative session has not been quite as active as last year on agricultural issues per se, although there have been a few areas of progress and concern. With more on one of those, we have Southeast AgNet's Gary Cooper, who visited several key lawmakers at the Capitol this week.
Now about halfway through the Florida legislative session, one bill already headed to the governor is welcome news for Florida farmers and ranchers, most of whom employ many types of vehicles to keep food production moving. Representative Jim Boyd from the Bradenton-Sarasota area chairs the State Affairs Committee in the House. He says the vehicle registration fee rollback is a good thing for agriculture.
Overall, $400 million to the state of Florida, or to residents of the state of Florida. Ag's a big component of that, so I think it'll be a tremendous savings for our friends in the agricultural community.
Give us a quick outline of what that bill means.
Well, it means, I think, less money, for fees and taxes, and gives farmers an opportunity to invest more in their crops and more in what they provide for Florida and for Floridians and actually for people across the world. So I think it's a good thing.
Boyd reminds Floridians, too, of the importance of a food production industry in Florida that many, sometimes often, take for granted.
Agriculture is huge in Florida, as you know, and it's something that rivals first or second place every year in our economy. So anything we can do to help our farmers and our friends in ag spend more of their money on the things that matter to them, I think it's good for everybody.
Meanwhile, as the industry awaits the news when Governor Scott signs the bill into law, and that is expected considering his push to lower taxes and fees on business this year, one consideration for agriculturalists looking to renew tags this year is to remember the law won't take effect until September 1st. So if you do have to renew some tags before that date, it may be prudent to just do so for 1 year instead of taking the 2-year option, since again, the rollback, once signed into law, will not become effective until September of this year. In Tallahassee for Southeast AgNet, I'm Gary Cooper.
And I'm Julie McPeak with Southeast AgNet.
Here are today's headlines from the source WOCA. The South Florida man accused of planting 2 pipe bombs in a failed attempt to extort money from public supermarkets also tried to shake down Johnson & Johnson by threatening to poison the company's products and put them on store shelves. Brian Henderson, who is 49 years old and from Hallandale Beach, pleaded not guilty to federal charges filed this month in connection with the Publix and Johnson & Johnson extortion attempts. Law enforcement had concealed the identity of the manufacturer of the products that Henderson was charged with threatening to contaminate and distribute, previously calling it simply a New Jersey company. But during a federal court hearing in Fort Lauderdale, authorities revealed that it was Johnson & Johnson. Prosecutors said Henderson called himself the Angel of Death and used the company's website customer contact page to send messages to its New Brunswick, New Jersey offices in July and August. He demanded money, although no amount was specified, to ensure that he would not place contaminated products on the shelves of 20 stores. Henderson is also charged with trying to extort as much as $50 million from Publix. Authorities said he planted pipe bombs at 2 of the company's stores, one in Dania Beach, the other about 20 miles south of Lakeland, to try to get Publix to put money in a bank account in the Cayman Islands. Agents said Henderson confessed to all 3 cases. The Marion County Sheriff's Office is reporting that 5 vehicles were stolen from the Ford of Ocala dealership on North Pine Avenue sometime early Monday morning. The vehicles are valued at nearly $240,000. According to the report, 3 Ford F-250 4x4 crew cab Lariat diesel trucks and 2 Ford Mustang sports cars were stolen. Marion County Sheriff's Office detectives are looking for additional details concerning this case of auto theft. The Sheriff's Office is asking for help from any witnesses who may have seen the crime and perhaps did not realize the vehicles were being stolen from the dealership. If you do have any information, call Detective Wormuth at 352-402-6044, or you can phone anonymous tips to Crime Stoppers of Marion County at 368-STOP. You can also provide a tip on the website ocalacrimestoppers.com. Lieutenant Governor Carlos Lopez Quintana, Chief Financial Officer Jeff Atwater, Agriculture Commissioner Adam Putnam, Department of Elder Affairs Secretary Charles T. Corley, and Florida Sports Foundation President John F. Webb will all be speaking today during a noon program of the 14th Annual Ambassadors for Aging Day event at the Capitol in Tallahassee. This annual event brings elders and elder advocates together at the Florida Capitol to recognize and showcase the special contributions of older Floridians. This year, more than 1,000 seniors from around the state are expected to attend and participate in the festivities, which include performers, speakers, exhibitors, and health screeners. The event is free and open to the public. A complimentary lunch will be served. And Ocala Fire Rescue is reporting that earlier this month, an official delegation from Ocala traveled to its twin town of Newbridge, Ireland. The group, consisting of 17 people, had the honor to march in the St. Patrick's Day Parade and represent the Ocala community during many official activities. Organized events during the week brought many opportunities for the group to learn about its twin town and further develop the many friendships and professional relationships which has been established between the people of Newbridge, Ireland, and Ocala, Florida. The twinning concept is a program that promotes cultural exchange and economic development. The twinning agreement between the 2 towns was signed in 2008. This year, the delegation included 4 fire department personnel, 6 law enforcement officers, and 7 citizens who paid their own expenses for the trip. And those are the headlines from the source, WOCA 96.3 FM and 1370 AM.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Life jackets save lives. We're in Florida. Sunny to partly cloudy today, breezy and cool with a high just 59 to 63. Partly cloudy tonight, those ranging from 46 inland to 53 at the coast. Tomorrow, clouds will limit sunshine. There can be a shower. A warmer day, high 71 to 75. For Friday, variable cloudiness, warm and more humid with a couple of showers and a thunderstorm, high 75 to 79. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Top 10 questions about biotech crops. That story coming up on This Land of Ours.
As beef and dairy producers, we are committed to producing the safest, highest quality food for folks here in the U.S. and around the world. This is Baxter Black, here to remind you that your beef quality assurance program plays a big role in leading the way to identifying the best practices, like cattle handling techniques, to produce safe, wholesome beef from pasture to plate. So learn more by visiting bqa.org. Paid for by the Beef Checkoff.
Ah, fresh Florida Gulf shrimp. Spectacular. Sautéed in a splash of olive oil.